Hi, my name is Samuel Chinedu Miracle, and today I'll be talking on the concepts of aging, why exactly we grow old. Okay, apparently there are over 100 laws on aging and why we grow old. But after a long week of research, I was able to take out about 5 of the main laws which fits into our society of today and which actually have been tested to an extent here. And I'll be talking about them in level of importance, like from the most interesting to the least of them. So the first one is the concept of cell division limitation, postulated by Hayflick. It's called the Hayflick's limit, which is actually very common in our schools these days. So apparently, this scientist studied cells and he found out that cells actually had a limited amount of times they could divide, and after which they could no longer divide. So normally, for our cells to grow, for it to grow and develop, our cells have to keep dividing and multiplying. So Hayflick found out that cells actually, different cells have a number of time they can actually divide, and after that they can no longer divide, which means growth and development stops. So according to Hayflick, this is when the cell stops growing and dies, probably freezes or dies by apoptosis. So according to him, he thought this would contribute a great deal to what? Aging. And the second law actually goes together with it. This will help you understand the first law. Is the law of telomere shortening. Apparently, we have 23 pairs of chromosomes, we humans, and every chromosome has two main parts: the center, which is the centromere, and the telomere, which is the tail part. So scientists found out that with every cell division that occurs in every cell, the telomere, which is the tail part of this chromosome, shortens. So let's say a cell divides 10 times, with every single time it divides, the telomere shortens. So as the telomere keeps shortening, of course, one time it's going to get done with, So they came to a conclusion that every cell keeps dividing with telomere shortening, So as the telomere is done shortening, then cell division stops. So at that point, the cell can no longer divide. So at that point, we see the cell is unreproductive, so the cell dies. So this has been the most common law till late, but there are questions to this. How come cells which don't divide still die? Like the neurons in our brains, they don't divide, but apparently they still die, So, and again, they found out that animals with longer telomere tend to live longer than we humans, tend to live shorter than we humans with shorter telomere. Like mice, they have a longer telomere than us, which is normally supposed to mean that it's going to take a while for their telomere to shorten. That means it will take a while for them to die. But on the contrary, it's different, because in as much as they have a longer telomere than us, they still die earlier than us. So these two theories have a kind of questioning. The third theory of aging is the one of oxidative stress and glycation. Apparently, they said when you take in a lot of sugar can, once we have excess sugar in our blood, this sugar can go and bind to different molecules in our body, mostly our proteins and amino acids, and different structures in our body, So which you call glycation. So when we bind to these proteins, it makes them weak and useless. And if you can remember, some of the proteins we find in our skin is collagen and elastin. So you can imagine if sugar binds to these guys and make them weak and useless, it kind of makes sense in the sense that as we grow old, our skin dies and stuff. So it kind of gives a good idea. So I can give this law, I'll rate it, let's say 6/10. It has a good postulation here. Stress. So normally in a cell, once we have foreign organisms like bacteria or fungi or whatsoever, our body has means of killing these guys, in the sense that it produces, we have different types of killing, One type of killing is the oxygen dependent killing, in the sense that our body produces what we call free radicals, reactive oxygen species. These are elements with 1 or 2 valence electrons. So because of this, from chemistry, we know that these guys are very reactive, so they can bind to different parts of the bacteria or foreign organism and kill it and destroy it. This is a very good mechanism. But here comes the problem. The problem is when we take in too much oxygen, these reactive oxygen species are produced in excess, and because of this, they can start binding and destroying our own tissue, which can further worsen or lead to aging. So basically, these are just some of the laws that regards aging. But then now there's this main law, the latest one of them, which actually has a very high stronghold, which is the theory of stress and metabolism. Later research was conducted on mice, worms, and flies, and they found out that the lifespan of these guys increased by almost more than 50% when they were restricted of calories and stress. So they concluded, and after the research, that there was a great relationship between the longevity of life, stress, and metabolism. Also, they furthered their research and they found out that metabolism played a very vital role, in the sense that they further broke it down to look at a receptor known as the insulin, the IGF, the insulin growth-like factor, which simulates or mimics the insulin receptor. But this is actually an anabolic hormone, yeah, which responds to the growth hormone produced by the pituitary gland. We found out that in organisms, these organisms aforementioned, mice, worms, and fly, that had these genes altered in them, these guys had their lifespan increased by almost 50%. So here comes the good and bad news. Guess what? The same genes and structural pattern of IGF in these guys is exactly the same in us, which gives room for thought. Am I trying to say that if we have our IGF receptor altered or gene altered, we might have a chance to increase our lifespan based on studies? Yes. But would science let us try out this so-called heinous act on us? It's like it means we have to actually alter our genes from birth or in adults. They won't. Or would they let us reduce our caloric intake by over 33% from childbirth? So these are the setbacks to this research. Three things are sure. For longevity of life, we need to have first reduced caloric intake, which is the most tested one. Genetic alteration of our insulin growth-like factor receptor or gene whatsoever, and maybe less sugar diet. But now the question lies, would science allow us to genetically alter the genes from birth or in adults? Or would we be allowed to reduce caloric intake by over 33%? These are questions. And again, the funding for research on aging is really small. So we might actually get nowhere if more support does not come. So that's that about aging. These are questions for you. Thank you so much for watching this episode of ZooWise. We promise to bring you new interesting episodes. We'll tackle a lot of questions that seem easy but we don't have answers to. Okay, thank you so much for watching once again. I am Sam watching the miracle, and this is ZooWise.